Hi.
Hello. I just started the promotion, so no one is here yet. As last week was quite full, I totally forgot to promote it a little bit more so that people actually know about it. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
It's good to hear. Yeah, I'm also doing good. I hope that this week will be less intensive as last week, but overall, doing well. And happy to especially kick off the Q4 now this week in reality, as we were tackling a couple of other topics, and that's what I also wanted to talk about today. But I think we will simply wait one more minute and then we get started. Was mainly about the OKR that we have set up for Q4 in dev, which is mainly around taking as many routes as possible below the LCP of 2.5 seconds. Yeah. So really looking forward to do some work on that with the whole team, as we still have some big outliers with 10.8 seconds and 7.9 seconds for LCP. That's quite tough, but I believe to some extent we might also have some quick wins again where we can push it quite fast below it. So good. But as we are recording, I will simply start talking and tell you a little bit about the stuff that we are doing right now, and we will save it for later. What do you think?
Sure, let's go.
But also feel free to jump off and not feel obliged to stay with me during the recording. So all good. Good. So let's talk today a little bit about our new LCP leaderboard, which can give us some insight into especially having a bigger overview over the whole product and everything that we are measuring, and especially all routes and the LCP of those routes, which is the largest contentful paint. And I will try to share my screen. That one. Good. Here we go. So what we have now is two things. We have now the LCP leaderboard, and one specifically for dev, which is our sub-department, which is then also tied to our OKR. And what we see here is how many routes we have right now with a so-called good LCP, which is below 2.5 seconds, how many routes we are in total measuring, and what our average LCP is based on the median data that we have. And as you can see, we get somewhere around here. So currently the GitLab project homepage, for example, is a little bit over 2.5 seconds, and everything else is then running for a very long time. And the other thing, what we have on this page is what is also very interesting to pick out candidates, is to have a better understanding if we have right now just outliers or not. So we can also, for example, see the history. This is just 7 days right now, and we can extend this to the last 90 days. And there we can see, for example, a nice drop that we especially had at the beginning, but still we have some bouncing numbers which go around 400 milliseconds up and down, especially for the merge detail page. But this can give us a better insight quite fast to see if stuff is just an outlier right now or not, or if there is actually a problem or an actual improvement. The other thing is that where we can also target specifically work is the time to first byte. So we see right here just the time to first byte so that we can have a better understanding if this might be more of a front-end problem or is more of a back-end problem. And for example, we can see here that the verified pipeline charts page, for example, is not rendering anything before 16.4 seconds. And the same goes for a couple of other routes that are going very, very long. And what we did now is we said, okay, let's do OKR around it, which is here. And we have now the OKR to get 80% of all the 53 routes that we have in dev that we defined below 2.5 seconds. So this means we have our own dashboard for that, which is here. And off we go. So here, what we can see here is all the routes that we have in dev, and we will basically try to tackle those routes as soon as possible to figure out what we can do about them. Some even just already started to see if we can do stuff more async, if we need some changes. On the backend side, we can also see what is taking right now quite long. So we have the project management issue list and the value stream and the milestone large. So those are pages where we need to take a look, perhaps either that we have very bad queries or we have the need to basically make stuff async and figure that out, because everything currently we have defined, I think, yeah, everything below 500 milliseconds on time to first byte is okay. We still can get stuff accomplished. I think we take currently around a second, depending on the page on the front end. So up to like 800, 900 milliseconds, it still can work that we have an LCP below 2.5 seconds. But of course, the higher the backend is, the worse it will get also, of course, on the front end. Yeah, and that's how we are going to go into Q4. The Q4 just started last week, as we are having a fiscal year starting always with February. So this is why our quarter just started in November, the Q4. Yeah, any questions on that?
Just a comment. It looks really useful to me because I'm also a database maintainer and I often have to analyze complex queries. And some of the pages I actually know that we have actually backend problems because we are either querying too much data from the database or we execute way too many queries.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome, especially to take a look already at the ones that you know already that are doing simply very heavy database queries. Sometimes we even might take a look if we need to get data async or if we need to even remove data. I still remember we had this on the project homepage where we had one field that took almost 80–90% of all the time. We removed it, no one complained, no one was missing it, but we improved the performance quite nicely on the backend already. So I think we have a couple of options there to get everything into a nicer range. Cool. The other thing that I wanted to talk about today is the so-called cumulative layout shift. So we are currently focusing on the LCP, which is the largest contentful paint, which is all around when does the biggest, largest content element on the page is actually rendered and has finished rendering. But what is the main focus overall on performance data right now is so-called Web Vitals, and there are a couple of them. And another one of those, which is also quite important, especially to the perceived performance, is the so-called cumulative layout shift, which simply means how much does this page jump around while it's loading. And a very good example of that it's jumping too much is the project homepage in that sense. And what we can see here is that we can even make it slower. So what we can see here, we have the first render, the first visual change, and now we even have a jump in there due to some font rendering later. now we have some fields, then something pops up, another thing pops up, and the last thing that you can even see down here is that the columns between the loading state and the actual render state is different, so we have another jump. And this basically makes the page look very nervous. And this, of course, also means that it feels much less good performing. And what we are looking at right now is to have a look that we are pre-rendering already on the HAML pages most of those elements and simply have them inactive or empty or just already with a loading state. And then the view application just renders over it, but that there is no visual change between the loading state of the HAML page, the loading state of the view application up to the actual finally rendered thing. And this should also reduce how fast it feels nicely, because it simply feels the data is popping up, and that's something that, that the eye is not recognizing as good as stuff that is moving around. And on the other hand, every jump that we make and that is happening on that page is also decreasing performance, because this means that layout needs to be re-rendered, recalculated by the browser, and this is something we definitely want to prevent and reduce as much as we can. So that will be something that the main work, the main tool that we have for that is simply render in HTML already the loading state and just replace it then with the application, and that should be already of nice help there. Yeah, those were the two topics that I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you have, Adam?
Not really.
Good. And I think we have so much work in front of us for Q4 with the new LCP leaderboard and all the rules that we have in front of us, that we simply end the session early today. I will post this so people can take a look at it async, and also can leave questions async. And for the next time, we will do some more promotion around for the next session. Good. Then I wish you a really nice day. Thanks a lot for joining, and take care, and see you soon in another call. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.